Hey there, it's me Eden. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and visit my Patreon page for early access, link in the description. I rummaged under my jumper to retrieve my sock boobs and handed them to Anita as well. She smiled at me again. "What do you want to do about that?" she asked, pointing at the necklace around my throat that spelt Sarah. I put my hand to it instinctively. "You can keep it if you want," she said, "but I wouldn't wear it home if I were you." She walked around to my back again and undid the clasp on the back of it, holding it gently as it fell, and then handed it to me. "Take care of it, you'll be needing it later." I nodded, and to my surprise, she kissed me again. Her perfume filled my senses, and my head spanned with desire for her. Suddenly she broke away again, and taking my hand, started walking briskly up the road. "Come on, we'll miss your train." The station in Anita's town was the terminal, so when we got there the train was waiting at the platform. We had one last kiss before Anita left, waving and smiling at me. "See you tomorrow," she said, as she walked away. "And bring lots of money." Why did I need to bring lots of money? I wondered briefly, but my mind soon returned to other things. We had kissed again, so Anita obviously loved me. I was in heaven, and more than that, I was now more or less dressed as a boy. My euphoria carried right through the short journey to my village just outside Anita's town, and also on the short walk to my house. The thought of facing my parents and their inquisition about my new girlfriend brought me back to reality a little. But since Anita's relatively passionate farewell, there was enough truth in the matter to ease both my concerns and my conscience. The inquisition was not so bad as I had feared. It started on a bad note, however, as I walked into the living room to say hi. "What are you wearing?" asked my mother. "Oh, just something I borrowed off Anita. My jeans got a bit dirty playing tennis." I mumbled. My mother raised her eyes a little. "Well, at least she didn't lend you a skirt, I suppose. Come on in and tell us all about it." I had to narrate a version of the events of the weekend to them, embellishing here and there, but more obviously leaving whole sections and outfits out of it. Eventually I had had enough, and announced I was going to have a bath, and then get to bed. In the bath, I noticed with horror that the marks all over my chest from the bra were, if anything, worse than they had been that morning. Well, at least I wasn't wearing one now. As with the night before, it took me some time to get to sleep. I could still feel the bra across my chest, and the tights and skirt on my legs, almost as if I had never taken them off. Perhaps Anita had been right, once you wore a skirt, you were never the same again. With that sort of thought in my mind, together with the erotic memories of kissing Anita, I eventually fell asleep. I woke the next morning fairly late. The sun was shining into my bedroom and the birds sang outside. I dressed quickly, noting with some relief that this was the first time I had put on boys' pants since Saturday, let alone a normal pair of trousers. I was a little dismayed that the marks of the bra were still visible as red lines around my chest, back and shoulders, but I carefully made sure my mom and dad didn't see them. I got my books ready for school, and carefully placed the pink knickers I had been wearing the day before with them in my bag, together with the Sarah necklace. I looked at it lovingly, not because of the name, or the memory of having to wear it, but because the beloved Anita had given it to me. I had a quick breakfast, and remembering Anita's warnings about money, picked up 10 pounds from my drawer before leaving for the station. I didn't have long to wait before the train pulled in. We had a routine for meeting on the train. Anita, Nikki, and a few others were always in the second to last carriage. All I had to do was wait on the right bit of the platform, get in, and walk through. I glanced along the carriage as the train set off, and saw Anita 3 or 4 compartments down from me. She smiled and raised her hand in a little wave. My heart skipped a beat, and I rushed down to greet her. Sitting in the compartment with her were Nikki, Sue, and a couple of other friends of hers. "Hi Steve," she said, still smiling. "Have a good weekend?" "I told you, Anita, I don't want to," I said stubbornly. "I've only had trousers on for about an hour since I came to your place on Saturday morning. I don't want to put on a skirt again now." She looked at me quizzically again. "But you have to, Steve." "No, I don't. I can stay as I am." "Well, what's the point of that? It won't make you any better in the contest, will it?" I turned my head away from her. "Well, that's not the only thing in life." "What's that supposed to mean?" she demanded. I hesitated for a moment and decided to say what was on my mind. "I thought we were going to try and sort out this us thing, why we keep kissing each other and stuff like that." "We are," she exclaimed. "That's why we're skiving off school." "Then why do I have to put on this stuff then?" She looked baffled by the question. "For the practice, of course. I thought you wanted to help me in the contest thing." Her tone was one of accusation and of suspected betrayal. "I thought you were my friend." "I am your friend," I replied, "but I can be your friend in trousers as easily as in a skirt." "I know that, but I want you so used to wearing a skirt by Thursday that it's become second nature to you." She stared straight at me, with her piercing blue eyes. "I want you to be such a brilliant girl that you wipe the floor with all the others, especially Peter." Her enthusiasm was nearly manic. I grimaced. "Can't you sort out your problems with Chrissy in some other way?" "No. I've got to beat her in this," she exclaimed, staring at me wide-eyed. "What is it between you and Chrissy anyway? I can't see why you hate each other so much." Anita turned away from me. It was a question I had asked once before, but had never had a reply. "We were friends once," she whispered. "Back in junior school. Then she did something horrible, and I've never forgiven her." "What was it?" I asked, determined to get to the bottom of this, since it was now affecting my life so much. "It's hard to talk about," Anita mumbled. "Well, try," I said, trying to express some concern. "I had this toy panda," she went on at last. "I'd had it since I was a baby." I saw that there were tears coming into her eyes. "I called it Paula." Fascinating information in a way, but I could not see what it had to do with Chrissy. "What happened?" I asked in a quiet voice. "It was a show and tell day at school, and I took the panda in and gave a little talk about how much I loved her. Everybody was really nice about it." She paused. "But Chrissy sneaked in at break time and took her outside and set fire to her." "She did what?" I asked incredulously. "She set fire to Paula," Anita sobbed. "I saw her, but it was too late. She was just standing over this little fire, laughing and jumping up and down. I didn't know what it was at first, and just joined in the crowd to see what was going on. Then I saw it was Paula. The story was giving her genuine pain, I could see." After a pause, Anita continued. "She told me I was a baby to have a panda anyway, and to make such a fuss about it." All the other kids starting laughing as well. The caretaker came out and put the fire out, but Paula was ruined, she was gone for good. It was horrible. "It must have been," I said, putting my arm around her as she cried. "They called me Baby Robinson at school after that," she went on. "Cry Baby Robinson, so that's why I hate Chrissy," Anita suddenly said with venom, "and why I want to beat her at everything, especially this." She stared at me again. "You won't tell anyone, will you?" I shook my head, genuinely moved by her story. "Poor Anita," I said, by way of comfort, although she had removed my arm from her shoulders. "So please help me with this, Steve. This isn't about you, it's about me and Chrissy. Everyone thinks she's so lovely and nice, but she's not, she's horrible. I nodded. She sounds it. She can act all nice and cute around you boys, but she's not like that at all. I hate her. She wants everyone to think she's the perfect girl, but she's not. She wants to win this contest with Peter to prove she's better than me, better at fashion and makeup and everything. I've got to make sure she doesn't. The determination and venom in her voice were overpowering. She turned to look at me again. So please, Steve, practice some more for me. We've got to beat her. My mind was numb for a moment. The resistance I had felt to dressing up for her again had all but disappeared in waves of sympathy for what had happened all those years before. I looked in the bag. Would it really be all that bad to wear this stuff for her again? She was right in a way. By the time Sunday had ended I had got pretty used to wearing a skirt, and a bra, and everything. All right, I said at last. I must be mad to do this, but all right. Oh Steve, thank you, she gasped, and kissed me again. We separated after a few seconds and she said, but you'd best hurry up, otherwise we'll be late. Late for what? For the train, it'll be here in a quarter of an hour. It wasn't easy getting changed in a small toilet cubicle, especially with someone else in there as well. I took off my shirt and jumper, and Anita helped do up my bra, and pat it out with socks. I took off my shoes and socks by sitting on the toilet itself. I took my trousers off, and Anita hurriedly stuffed them into the bag, and I was standing there in my boy's pants and a bra. I still wasn't sure about stripping naked in front of her, and told her so. She told me to put the slip on next, and to change knickers with that on so she couldn't see anything. It was the slip I'd worn on the Saturday, with the scalloped hem and flowers. It was barely decent when I was naked underneath, but it did enough to cover my modesty while I put on the white knickers with the love heart on. Anita handed me a pair of tights, which I put on with some expertise, and the tight flowery knickers to hold them up. Next came the school skirt, which I had only worn briefly before. It felt a little different to my denim mini, flimsier, and I didn't like the back fastening. I slipped myself into the blue jumper, and last, I sat down on the toilet and put on the boots. Anita smiled at me. Thanks, Steve, she said again, handing me my wig. I slipped this on, and then remembered something. I stood up, and opened my own bag, and pulled out the necklace she had given me. I wanted to show her how much I valued having a present from her, and decided that I should wear it. I might as well wear this as well, I said, with a forced note of resignation. Oh Steve, how sweet of you, she exclaimed, and fastened it around my neck. I blushed as she touched me. Come on, we'd best get a move on. We can always put some makeup on when we're on the train. She unlocked the cubicle door, and we went over to the sinks. Anita washed her face to remove any trace of tears, and I had no choice but to look at myself in the mirror. The girl that looked back at me had a face that was recognizably mine, framed with brunette hair, and with Anita's gorgeous blue jumper on. How could I have let this happen again? Still, with a sideways glance at the eager Anita, who would again be my companion for the day, I answered my own question. We went back out onto the platform, which was now empty of school children, but filling up with people off to the city for shopping or whatever. Soon the train arrived, and Anita and I climbed aboard. I had hoped we might have our conversation on the train, but there were no empty compartments. After walking up and down the train a little, we shared one with a young mother with two small children, a boy of about 4, and a girl of perhaps 2. The woman smiled at us as we sat down opposite her. The little girl stared wide-eyed at me with a frankness that would have been rude in an adult. I wondered briefly with a sudden panic whether she realized I was a boy all dressed up. I smiled at her and she looked surprised for a moment, and then smiled back. "You're nice," she said to my surprise. "Thank you," I managed to reply, as her mother gently told her off. Shall we have a look in Top Shop when we get there, Sarah? Anita asked me suddenly. I turned to look at her. If you want, I said, non-committedly. I want to see if they've got anything for Saturday, she went on. Saturday? I asked. Yeah, you know, our girls' night out. The reminder hit me like a brick. Anita thought I had agreed to go on a girls' night out with her on Saturday, after the contest. I had to get out of it. Much as I was reconciled to helping Anita get her revenge on Chrissy, it seemed to me that Sarah should go back in the box after the contest itself. I'm not sure I'm coming, I said, wary of the need to maintain my cover with the woman opposite. Oh, but you must! Anita exclaimed. It'll be good, you, me, and Sue and Nikki will have a whale of a time. Well, I don't think I'll come, I went on. The woman opposite looked at me and shook her head. You take my advice, love, go and enjoy yourself while you can. When you reach my age, stuck with 2 little kids, you'll wish you'd have gone, believe me. That's right, Anita added after a pause, grinning. You're only young once. The woman nodded in agreement. I've not had a proper night out in about 3 years. You go. See, Sarah? Anita said, everyone thinks you should go. I blushed. I'll think about it, I mumbled. I'm sure if you find something cool to wear you'll want to go, the woman added. Treat yourself to a nice mini dress or something. With legs like yours you could get away with it. Please subscribe my channel for the next part. And visit my Patreon page for early access.